He wasn't necessarily the most loquacious. He didn't give long answers. Sometimes he looked at us in the media a little bit wary or skeptical, and at the same time, you knew that he played the game the right way.
Yeah, I liken him a little bit to Steve Carlton, who's sometimes in his own little world. But no, he's just somebody that always plays hard and always lays it all on the field, and certainly that's why he was so beloved in Philadelphia.
Did you ever interview Steve Carlton?
No, I did not, but I've seen plenty from a distance.
I got to interview him once, and at the very end of the interview, I interviewed him for TV 40. I said, wow, that didn't go so bad. And he kind of looked at me like, well, what'd you think? I thought, given everything I've read about your, acrimonious relationship with the media, I thought that no way was this going to go smoothly. Well, let's get into the mailbag, and we have several questions that came into 97.3 ESPN.com. That's how you go there. We'll start with Ty, and he wants to know, why did Cody Asche get sent to the minors instead of Jimmy Paredes?
Well, I think this question was asked before Jimmy Paredes' big day on Sunday. Of course, he was a triple shy of the cycle. But if you compare the two, I think there's a few different reasons why, at least for now, Jimmy Paredes sort of won out. So if you look at the two of them together, both of them were hitting about the same. And one thing about Paredes that kind of helped his cause was that he was a switch hitter. If you remember last week, Pete Mackanin was giving a lot of action to Aaron Altair in center field and essentially platooning Paredes and Odubel Herrera. He would put Paredes in right field against a left-handed pitcher and play Odubel Herrera on the bench. So what you had there was a sort of platoon that you can't replicate with Cody Asche, who hits exclusively left-handed, and I think that was one consideration there. Second consideration was Cody Asche could be optioned to the minor league, whereas Jimmy Paredes is out of minor league option, so the Phillies would have to straight out cut him completely. And I think they're worried about doing that because Peter Borges is still on the roster, and he might be moved very shortly, and then in which case the Phillies could bring Cody Asche back. So I think they wanted that flexibility there, at least for now, even though Paredes might not look that much better in the field. I think one thing, too, that Pete Mackanin said when they sent him down was they wanted Asche to get experience at other positions. Now, so far since he's been demoted, Cody Asche has played 2 games in left field and started as a designated hitter once. But I think the plan is to get him some action at first base, at third base again, and really build him into a utility player that could help the team at multiple positions.
I will tell you that I was at the ballpark on Sunday sweating it out like a lot of the other 20,000 people that were there, and Paredes was funny. I knew why he was starting because of that Borges had gotten hit with a pitch the night before. I badmouthed him to my own father, and then he went out and was a triple shy of the cycle. So perhaps me putting the whammy on him was what changed it around.
Yeah, and I think Asche, he still has a shot to factor himself into the Phillies' plans, although at this point I think if he makes the Phillies, it'll be as a utility type that can swing between the outfield and the infield. And again, Greg Dobbs is the name that rings a bell. Dobbs played both corner outfield positions, some third base, some first base for the Phillies, and he was a very useful left-handed pinch hitter. So hopefully Asche can build himself into a role like that.
I was going to ask you, Frank, with Paredes hitting so well as he did on Sunday, is that one of those, one time, good job, we appreciate it, or could that actually get him more playing time as the season progresses?
I don't think it will. I think it'll just be that was a nice game out of a bench player. And one thing about Paredes too, the Phillies have been afraid to use him in the infield. When they grabbed him, he was somebody with experience at second base, third base, left field, right field, and they've used him exclusively in the outfield corners. So I don't really think that they think he factors much into their plans, other than being a switch-handed hitter on this roster right now while they're waiting for the young guys to come up.
Frank Klose is with us. The Phillies mailbag's open, and Frank, Justin wants to know, with the injury, does it hurt J.P. Crawford's chances of a call-up?
I think it really does. I think Crawford might have been on the bubble as it was. We keep talking about the roster crunch the Phillies potentially will face. And one thing about J.P. Crawford is that he does not need to be added to the 40-man roster this particular offseason. So they want to get through the Rule 5 draft, I'm sure, and then they can take their time to decide on what happens with some of those players. But like the Phillies were able to grab Odubel Herrera and Tyler Goodell from teams that had perhaps a little excess of prospects in their system. Well, come next year, the Phillies could be the team that other teams are rating. So they want to be careful with that, and if they don't need to give Crawford a roster spot now, they don't need to worry about it. Now, Crawford's dealing with an oblique injury, and the person most recently we can remember in the Phillies system having an oblique injury like that would be Cody Asche, and that was one of those things in spring training. I remember showing up the first day, and it was like, all right, well, he'll just be out a little bit. Well, he ended up rushing back a little bit perhaps, and what ended up happening was he made it worse. So that type of injury is something you just kind of need to rest until it's good, and I don't think the Phillies would want to risk injury to Crawford too. So considering all that and the fact that he cooled down a little bit after a really strong July, even before he got hurt, I'm thinking my personal opinion is that they may wait on Crawford now.
We're talking with Frank Klose, opening up the Phillies Mailbag with our Phillies Insider here on 97.3 ESPN, the Sports Bash, Josh Henning and Pete Thompson. Frank, sticking with J.P. Crawford for just a minute, I want to know, could this be a could this be a blessing in disguise? Because the guy is very young. He's the youngest guy in AAA. Maybe this is an opportunity for him just to get a little bit more seasoned, and maybe next year you can look at him getting playing time.
Yeah, and I don't think him not getting a call-up now necessarily precludes him from starting for the Phillies next year. He is the youngest player in AAA, and it's really easy to forget that because it feels like he was a big, high-profile first-round pick a couple years ago in 2013. It really seems like he's been here a lot longer than he has. So for a team like the Phillies, there really is no rush. I know fans want to see him because they're eager for that next core of talent, but he's somebody they can take their time. It's not like they're desperate to fill shortstop. I mean, Freddie Galvis hasn't been tremendous, but he's been adequate. You don't have to worry about somebody playing poor defense that drives all the pitchers crazy. I mean, I could deal with a shortstop with a good glove and doesn't hit a whole lot in the meantime while you wait for him. And to me, when you have all these young pitchers, you want them to feel confident in the defense behind them. So I don't think anything's going to be necessarily bothered if the Phillies just wait a little while on him.
And I told you Sunday, Frank, and Frank Klose is with us on 97.3 ESPN FM, that I was at the ballpark, only about 20,000 people there. That was the announced attendance. But Ryan Howard got good cheers every time that he was involved. And Michael wants to know, with Ryan Howard's recent play, could we finally see the day that he is traded?
I think this is something that potentially could happen. On Friday night, I guess he hit that grand slam, and kind of my thought was on Twitter, is like, well, he might be playing himself out of town at this point. I think the fans really are at the point where they really appreciate all he's done for the Phillies organization. They try to show him that when he's up to bat, and I think they'd be very happy for him if he got an opportunity to go for the playoffs. Now, you look at his numbers since the All-Star break. He's batting .367, and he's got 5 home runs. Now, All-Star break wasn't that long ago, and he hasn't played every day. But 5 home runs, 13 runs batted in, and his OPS is 1.147. So that is really significant. A lot of the damage is coming against right-handed pitching. And if I'm a team right now, there's a few teams that have suffered injuries lately that might need some help. One might be the Detroit Tigers. Miguel Cabrera might be somebody to watch. He exited last night's game with a little bit of an injury there, but the only option they had in his absence was to throw catcher Jared Lamacchia out there. So he's somebody that might be around to help a team like that. The Houston Astros, first base has been a dead zone. They were hoping that former Phillies prospect Jonathan Singleton would ever actually be something, and he really hasn't. And they have a new up-and-coming prospect named A.J. Reed, but he's not really hitting yet at the major league level. He might be a little bit rushed. So Ryan Howard could slot in at first base for the Astros. And then you have the Texas Rangers who saw Prince Fielder retire, and just last night Shin Chu broke his hand, and that's a left-handed bat out of their lineup. Now, Now, the Rangers probably throw somebody that was batting lower in the order up to the leadoff spot where Chu was batting, but Chu was serving as a designated hitter when that happened, so they might benefit a little bit from a left-handed bat that could hit a home run here or there, as some of the other players have to shift their roles. So I think there's a few teams where he kind of matches. I think it goes without saying that the Phillies pay most of his contract that's left. If they save any money, I don't think that's really a consideration for them at this point. I think they would do it to him to give him the courtesy to let Tommy Joseph finish out playing against both right-handed and left-handed pitchers alike, and give Ryan Howard a good send-off until we see him at the Wall of Fame, like we saw plenty of the others come back this weekend.
Frank, I want to ask you a little bit more about Ryan Howard, because I had Bob Nightingale of the USA Today on yesterday, and he said that he thinks that a team that Howard could end up on eventually is St. Louis. And it's interesting because that, combined with Howard telling Todd Zalecki that he thinks that he can still play next year, is St. Louis a destination in 2016, or could that be a destination in 2017 for the Slugger?
Well, that's a pretty interesting one. I haven't really connected Howard to St. Louis just yet. Now, I think we've all known from throughout the years that whenever the Phillies have played in St. Louis, Ryan Howard has just been a remarkable presence for the Phillies. He just seems to love playing back at home, and where he's originally from in St. Louis. So that makes it a big deal. I mean, right now Brandon Moss is kind of playing first base for the St. Louis Cardinals. Moss he isn't having that great a year. He's batting .261. He has hit 21 home runs, but he's also a left-handed hitter. It's kind of hard to say that Howard will do much more than Brandon Moss is for the Cardinals, so that might be a little bit of a tough one. He does have. I'm just looking at Moss's numbers now. He's got 3 home runs in the last 7 games, so I don't know if that's a fit for right now. If you get to the point, perhaps next season for the Cardinals, where they do, you might remember they do have Matt Adams, who's on the disabled list, who's also a left-handed first baseman. So they would have to sort of rule out Matt Adams and find a right-handed component to that. I think that's a place Ryan Howard would like to play. But for the fit to happen, I think it's harder on a National League team, because if you already have left-handed first baseman, you're basically just a pinch hitter. So he may want to play a little bit more than that, or have some more options. And an American League team might be a better fit, just because he can serve as a designated hitter once in a while, or share the position with the right-handed designated hitter, or right-handed first baseman. It just seems like there's more options in the American League.
All right, Frank. Well, we're coming to the end, but real quick, what's your favorite Utley? Because there's Boo, F-U, right? World Effing Champions. Some of his plays maybe that he made on the field, like the fake to then throw to home. Chase Utley, you were the man, right? What's your one? What's the one that sticks out for you?
Yeah, mine is that fake out. I think he just made the Tampa Bay Rays just look so overmatched with that. And just the way he goes about it, and that little fake out, of course, is the most obvious one. But he was really good because his personality is just so dry.
Right.
The other teams don't see it coming. So I think you can tell just how smart he is on plays like that. So I really like that.
Frank Klose. He's at Frank Klose with a K, 973 on Twitter. He's also part of our Phillies Mailbag each Tuesday. Frank, we appreciate it. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.